Hello, welcome back. I am John Cole Morgan, and I'm joining you from iQuilt here in the UK with the amazing South African quilter story in Voices in Cloth, the miniatures created by these incredible quilters from South Africa, and one of them is Joy Clark. Joy, how are you?
I am very well, thank you.
Good. And now tell everybody, where are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I live in Umtantweni at the moment. I'm actually was based in Port Elizabeth for about 10 years, where my quilting really took a turn because, Port Elizabeth is known for having the best quilters in the country. And
Oh, them are
I was
fighting
fortunate.
words that you can't say
Yes,
that.
yes. You can take that out if you like.
No,
But
no, it's
anyway,
wonderful.
but that's where I landed up. And it was at a good time in my life. It was at a sad time because it was when my children had all left the country. And the good thing is that I had something to just get involved with. So I had learned to do patchwork about 46 years before that, but time you get busy and you stop sewing. But with the children having left and landing up in Port Elizabeth, I found myself in those, the amazing quilters' journeys in that place. You've got so many art quilts and so many traditional quilters and a load of teachers. So I was able to really get stuck in and learn and just enjoy quilting. And that really carried me through a difficult part of my life.
I can
But
imagine.
it was a turning point in a good way. So that's why I say it was a sad time, but it was a fantastic time as well. Yeah. So now we've moved here to Umtantweni, and I've now got to know the lovely ladies around here. There's a lot of quilters in this area as well. So yeah, this is a new stage for me.
How long have your kids been abroad for?
Well, my son has been there in New Zealand now for 12 years, and my daughter's been in Qatar for the last 16 years.
And
So,
unfortunately,
yeah.
they've chosen very far away places that you can't really get
Yes,
to very
yes, I
easily.
know. I know. We are always in touch, of course, but yeah, we can't travel too much. So, yeah, we have to make the
Very
best
hard
of it.
role.
Yeah,
And you are making
yeah.
the best of it, so well done. And I'm glad it brought you to quilting. It's horrible you have to be in that situation, but finding such an amazing craft, it helps a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. Quilting is therapeutic, and I really believe that. Honestly, it's a way of expressing yourself, and it doesn't have to be a miserable statement, but it's a way of finding something inside yourself that can be creative and it's fun. And the people, the quilters are, I think they are just the most amazing people. I don't know why. I love quilters. I really do. Everyone that I've met has just been an absolute encouraging person and an inspiring person. They are a different breed. So I'm proud to be one of them.
Well, I'm just looking
Yeah.
behind you, and that quilt behind you. Tell us a little bit about that. It's gorgeous.
Oh,
But
that's
sorry, before
fantastic,
you
isn't
tell
it?
us a little bit about that,
Yes.
can you
Yeah.
turn to the other side of your screen? Look at all those awards.
Oh, yeah.
So
Those are
you are
my ribbons.
officially the Joy Clark, aren't you? I
Yeah.
remember seeing your quilts in Stellenbosch. You are so talented.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
But
You
tell us a
know,
little bit about your awards. Tell us about that quilt behind you. Tell us a bit
okay,
more.
let me tell you about the quilt. That is Editor Sitar's design. She is, I don't know. I think she's a quilter of quilters. I watched a program once on where she was being interviewed, and in this program she showed a lot of her quilts, and I was sitting there with my mouth hanging open, thinking, how can one person have made so many quilts? And a lot of them were applique quilts, so there's a lot of work in those. So as soon as the program had ended, I looked her up and I found this course of hers, which was on Craftsy at the time, and I signed up for it. So it's called the Dresden Bloom. It's really stunning. So, and it was wonderful to make. I'm
Can I
sat and I
interrupt you for
made,
2 seconds? Can I interrupt you for
yes,
two
yes,
seconds?
yes,
Have you ever, now I don't know whether I should or shouldn't say this, have you ever
yes.
looked up Adita Sitar's workroom at Laundry Basket Quilts?
No, I haven't seen the
Have you
workroom.
seen her sewing room?
No, no, I haven't, but now I'm going to go and
I,
look it
I'm
up.
I'm just gonna do this and go, oh my, talk about a dream space. Do
Oh,
not look it
wow.
up. You don't need to see it. You will feel so inadequate that it's insane. I've never seen anything so
Okay.
beautiful in my life. So Edita
Yeah.
is an incredible woman. Runs
Oh,
Laundry Basket
she's,
Quilts. She pops out
yeah,
so much fabric every year. Have you seen her
I
fabric?
know.
Oh, mm,
Yes,
okay.
I've bought loads of her fabrics and I've got all her books, of course. And, if in my quilting journey, what's happened is I've learned from I always say I've learned from the best of the best because I find a good quilter and I learn from them. So, and my goal, of course, is never to copy them. This pattern is made from her pattern, obviously. But the thing is, you learn from people, and if you are teachable, you can grow, you know. I think that's why I became a quilting teacher. So I studied with the South African Quilters Guild. I did their teachers accreditation course. And I did it because I've been privileged to learn from fantastic teachers. So I want to be able to teach it to others. So, yeah, so that's why I teach as well.
I love it. And now tell us about your many, many awards.
Well, many years back, I visited a friend in Port Elizabeth. She was one of the quilters there that I really admired, still admire her. Her name is Charmaine de Freitas, and she was an art quilter. Doesn't do too much sewing these days. She still quilts, but not as much as she did those years. I think she's 89, I think. But anyway, I went to her house, and on her window was this row of ribbons and ribbons and I said, "What are those?" She said, "Oh, those are my awards." And I thought, "Oh my word, how awesome to have a ribbon!" And yeah, I of course carried on sewing and quilting for years after that. And the first time I entered a couple of shows, but the first time I won a ribbon, she was in that same hall, and I ran to her and I said, "Charmaine, Charmaine, come and look, come and look." And I dragged her to my quilt and I said, "Look, I've got a ribbon." So yeah, that was my first ribbon. I think the first one that you get is the most exciting one. Honestly, if I think back now, it wasn't even a fantastic quilt, but my workmanship was good on it. So yeah, it won a ribbon and it was a great moment. And the
How long
first of
ago?
many. I've been
How long
Oh
ago was that?
goodness. I think it was in 2013 or 2011. It's around about there. The dates, so I write the dates on the back of the ribbons because I always forget. And of course they give you a little certificate which I keep in a file so I can look back and see which ribbon goes with which quilt. So yeah, but it's fun. So now I have my own string of ribbons, so I'm
I
very,
was just
very
thinking
proud
that
of
as you
them.
were talking. Now, if I'm not mistaken, those square ones at the top, were those from Stellenbosch?
Yes, yeah, the square ones
Because
are
you
from
got first, second,
Stellenbosch.
and third, didn't you?
One is highly commended, and then the beautiful proteas. I don't know if you can see the protea ribbons. Glorious. And you know who made those?
Hmm.
Angie.
Angie,
You
this
know
Swanshanger.
Angie?
I
Yes,
love
she
her.
made those. Aren't they amazing?
Oh,
Those
she's
are
an
my
incredible cook.
treasures. So I've got three of big ones, and then you get the little baby ones to put on your coat collar during festival. So those are my best. I love them.
They're
So
very
yeah.
special. Because I remember I
Yeah.
came third in the UK Festival of Quilts here for the sustainable quilt I did called
Yeah.
Worthless.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you didn't get a certificate, you didn't get an award, you got the award, and
Yeah.
if they email you your certificate, you've got to print it yourself.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah.
I think the
That's
way South
terrible.
Africans do it, because I
That's
was so
lovely.
impressed with the award ceremony last year at Stellenbosch. That was
Yes.
incredible because everybody
Yeah.
gets, but everybody wears their awards and these massive rosettes. They're fantastic, and I just think
Yeah.
you should be
Yeah.
that proud and had that award there.
Yeah. True.
Brilliant.
Yeah, now those ones they gave us to wear at Stellenbosch were quite big. But normally the one that you get to wear, wait, I can show you.
Because I think you're a much better person than I am. I'd be wearing that down to the local shop just to do my shopping on an average Tuesday.
I know I can't find it now. My little workroom is chaotic. I've only cleaned the little portion that you can see.
There
Everything
is
else
not
is
a
total
quilter.
chaos.
There's not a quilter in the world who would not relate to what you're doing. But I
As
also
I put
noticed you've got a lot of beautiful machines over there. Is that a gorgeous Bernina, Cape Bernina behind you there?
Yes, yes, of course. Kaffe is my hero. I mean, I'm so into Kaffe's fabrics that I had to have both machines, the little one and the big one. Yeah, no, he's just, well, he's one of those people that has made a major difference to quilting for all of
Really,
us, so
really nice.
across the world, eh?
And he's
Yeah.
never made a quilt.
Yes, but he's lucky to have people working for him, eh?
So Lucy makes all of his quilts.
Yes, yeah,
She's
she's
very talented.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Joy, tell me why it was you were inspired to take part in our project.
Oh, you know what? I like to be involved. When I see there's a challenge, I like to do it. And because I'm always trying to encourage other people around me to do things, I sort of have to do it as well. The only difference between them and me is I do things in the last moment, the last minute. I quickly
You're
dive in
not
and get it done.
alone.
So it's terrible. I wish I could be different. I wish I could be like Carol Green. She is a lady who will plan her quilts well in advance. Her quilts are finished months ahead of time, and I always admire that about her. So yeah,
So Carol Green
she,
was the 30th
yes,
person, 30, to put her
yes,
quilt in.
yes,
I've done her
yes,
interview
yeah,
as well. Lovely lady.
yeah, she's awesome. Yeah,
So tell me a little bit
yeah,
about the
anyway.
piece that you've created.
Okay, well, I like doing confetti style work, so I just thought, well, let me do something fun. I did hear about a lot of people that were making quilts, folk thinking about the political situation around here, or there's so many gloomy things we can think about, and there's a lot of stuff going on that affects all of us. I mean, we're all in it together here, but I always choose to look at the positive side. So I thought, okay, let me call it positive focus. And then how do I put that down? Well, okay, let me just flick a few little pieces of pretty fabrics around and quilt them. So yeah, that's really all it was. I just wanted to make a pretty piece.
What I
So
love is how
yeah,
you
no,
minimize your quilt and just say, oh, I just wanted to make a pretty piece. Goodness me.
but it really is that. When we were at at the Hibiscus Guild, the ladies had their quilts. I think there were 18 of us that made a quilt, which
Gorgeous.
is fantastic because it's a small guild, it's 55 members, so that was pretty awesome. But when I heard their little stories, I was so surprised, and they had beautiful stories to go with their beautiful quilts. And I sat there thinking, I'm quite embarrassed to think that I have just thrown something together in a few minutes. But anyway, it is what it is. It's fantastic. The work they did was brilliant. I was blown away, really, really.
And
Yeah.
Joy, although your quilt may not have as moving a story as others, your work is amazing. So yes, you may have just thrown it together, but that's a bit like Adita Sitar saying, oh, I just threw that together and it's standing on your wall behind you. It doesn't need to have a story, and the fact that it does is very special. But the fact that it doesn't make your piece any less inspiring or any less beautiful.
Well, that's good. As long as somebody out there likes it and it can go to raise a bit of funds along the way, well, that's wonderful.
Well, I
Yeah,
like it, so I'm hoping you
good.
do. What do you think will
Yeah.
come from this series?
Well, you know what? I think it's just, I think the ladies that have got involved across the board that have, made the effort, even especially knowing that it was never going to come back to them, because, that's also a big thing.
It is.
People that might want to spend hours on something may want it back.
Especially when you hear the stories and you see how personal
Yes,
so many of these quilts
yes,
are. It's a big
yes,
ask,
true.
and
When it's
it's
Yeah,
humbling. It's really humbling
yeah,
to know that you're in charge
yeah,
of looking after that legacy of someone's piece.
yeah.
It's
And
very special.
you've been so successful. I mean, it's wonderful. I'm really amazed. You know, when I started talking to our guild and trying to get them motivated, um, I mean, literally, I just saw people staring back at me and nobody had any questions and nobody looked like they were interested. And I just thought, oh, well, that's that then. So you can imagine my surprise when there were 18 quilts. You know, it's fantastic.
Can you imagine my surprise when we were at
Yes,
57 and I was panicking
yes,
we weren't going to reach 100 and we're now fast approaching
I
250,
know.
which I am, oh, I can't explain how joyfully happy I am about it.
I
It's
know
brilliant.
it's amazing, but your whole plan went awry because you were going to host one quilt a day for 100 days ahead of the show.
But
So
the
what
great
happened
thing
with that?
about that is my very good friend Tracy Buras, we do a podcast together every week with Tracy Arnott. So it's John
Yes,
and T Squared.
yes,
And Tracy Buras will always say to you, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And if it isn't
yeah,
working and there's hesitation and it's not right, it's not the right time, be patient because it's always going to be better than what you think. And the great
yeah.
thing is this project has evolved. Sorry, I'm diverging off on a tangent now. Apologies.
That's
But the
good.
great thing about it is this project has evolved so much that it is the quilts are the display, I think, is moving beyond words, just the display. But the important thing for me, having done you being my 30th interview, it's it's not the quilts. The quilts are beautiful and the quilts are amazing, and I'm not minimizing the
Mm,
quilts. The
yeah,
story here and the thing that's important is this, the interviews, because you'll see when you watch them, and I hope people will watch all of them because these women have shared more of themselves, and I think that a lot of them have shared with anybody in these interviews, and people
yeah,
have been so honest,
yeah.
so raw, and so open. I've been in tears on 3 interviews, literally uncontrollable, to have to stop the interview because I can't stop crying because
Oh,
the
shame.
stories
Yeah.
people, you've got one lady who shares about the loss of her child, and she's made a piece about the death
Yeah.
of her child, and it was 2 days before the 12-year
Wow.
anniversary of the death of her child, and you just sit there,
Oh, my word.
you see the strength in this woman, and you see, and she's a very good friend of mine, and it's I'm getting emotional now because it's such an atrocity to happen to somebody to lose a child. That the fact
Oh,
that
yeah.
someone could make a quilt and then donate it to this project, that's just one of them. And there are loads of
It's
other stories that
it's
have come up. And that
amazing.
within the first 15 interviews, I realized this has to be done properly. It's going to be released and uploaded, and I'm going to do one a day, and it'll be for 250 days because it doesn't have to have a deadline. I don't have to have
Yeah,
it
true.
done by that date. It's a
Yeah,
self-imposed deadline. But the stories are so
yeah,
important that they have to be shared. And then being able to have been entrusted with these amazing pieces, it's humbling beyond words.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's kudos to you for doing this. I think it's a fantastic idea.
One thing I'm
Wonderful.
very good at is
Yeah,
coordinating things. I may not be very good at doing the actual making side of things, but it's nice to have that skill. And
yeah,
I think everybody has to
yeah,
play to their skills. And I think that's where mine is.
yeah.
But you couldn't do it without the contribution of these incredible quilters like yourself. And I had no idea how big of an award-winning quilter you were. Can I ask you a
Oh,
really
thank you.
personal, can I ask you a really personal question?
Yes,
Are you a
yes.
master quilter?
Yeah,
You are. I thought so. I hadn't
yeah,
realized. I hadn't
yeah.
realized. I would have curtsied before we started the group.
Oh, but my take on that, I will tell you that it's a wonderful thing to be given that award of Master Quilter. It's awesome. It really is. And it's such a honor. But at the same time, it also sometimes feels like it is pure luck because you're just in the right category at the right time with the right quilt
With
and
the
you get
right
the right
judge,
ribbon.
because
Yes, with a group of yeah, because it's normally four judges, and it's the right group of people who agree. on which quilt, so it sort of feels like you're very lucky to get it. And then, of course, once you've been given that award, you have this new challenge, which is huge because you literally have to show that you can be better than you were that day. The thing is about that is that you get that award at the one show. I think I got mine in 2017. It was at the Siadala Festival. It was such a surprise to me that when Paul Skitter called me up to give me the badge, I actually burst into tears and cried on his shoulder.
But I can
My
understand
most
that.
very embarrassing moment, but anyway, that's what I did.
I don't think
But
it's
it was so
embarrassing at all.
I
I
was
don't
so
think that's
surprised.
I don't
Yeah,
think that's embarrassing at all. I think it's very real and very honest because I didn't even know master quilter was a thing. I didn't even know it existed in South Africa.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
can't deny my dream is 20 years, 30 years down the line, I might, go near that whole challenge there. But because it
yeah,
is such an important thing to have, and it is such, as you say,
yeah. Look,
right piece, right time,
it
everything.
is.
But I think you also need to go back and
Yeah,
say, right quilter, right talent.
yeah.
Because to be in the
Okay.
conversation, you have to be good at what you do.
Yeah, look, you've got your skill level must be good. But the main thing is, I think what it does, which is a good thing, it separates, which is also a scary thing, because then for future festivals after they've given you that award, you can then only enter your quilts into the masters category. So the good thing is then that the normal quilters like we all are then not competing against the master quilters. So then they can win all the ribbons that they can. They can get their awards, their first, second, third, and highly commended, and whatever awards that they are that they've worked for is there for them. So they're not fighting against trying to beat someone who's been given the master's award. You see what I
I
mean?
do, I
Because
do.
otherwise it would be so scary for them. Because then for me again, I'm up against all the most amazing quilters in this country, and I don't stand
Sorry,
a chance against them.
of which you are one.
No, no, no. I'm like way down at the bottom of the scale. There are quilters who are impossible ever to how can I put this?
I
Let
understand
me
what you
put it
mean.
this
I know
way.
exactly what you mean. There are
Yeah,
quilters out there that you emulate, but you know that you'll never be as
yes.
good at.
Yeah, it's like
And
let me put it yeah, like Claire Wallace. I mean, who can quilt like Claire Wallace? And Talene Jeffrey, who can quilt like that? Oh my
yeah,
word. I stand in front of their quilts at because I'm looking at the actual quilting now, not the patchwork patterning, the actual quilting. I look at their quilting and I love quilting. It's my thing. I love quilting. And I look at their quilting and I just think, how on earth did they do this? So it's like you always have this amazing challenge ahead to try and get that good. And then on the other hand, the first time I looked at a quilting show, I didn't even see that type of work because it wasn't what I was looking at. I was just looking at all the fantastic quilts, and I didn't look at any one of them and think they weren't great. I looked at every single quilt that I saw and I thought, I want to do this. So yeah,
I
everyone
think
has
you
a space.
I think you've hit on a really important thing there because it depends where you are on your quilting journey. As a beginner, we
Yeah,
go in and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so overwhelmed by all this beauty and wonder.
yes,
And then you make
yes,
a quilt, and 5 years in, you've understood what you're doing, you know where you are. So when you go and see the next quilt
yeah,
festival, you're like, okay,
yes,
great quilt. Okay, that's a bit, you can see things where you've improved. And
yes,
I
definitely.
wonder, look, Claire and Talene, really good friends of mine. I adore them, and we're really close. And I've been able to see some of the pieces that they're putting into festival. And Claire's piece for festival this year, she sent me a picture yesterday, and I stood there for about 10 minutes looking at my phone, expanding and going. I'm like, how the hell have you done this? She is. beyond words, talent on a
I
level I
know,
cannot
I
grasp.
know,
But
I know.
in a way, and I love Claire to pieces, I don't want to do that because that's Claire. I want to do me
Yes,
in a different
exactly.
way. I
Yeah,
want Claire, and
exactly.
I know Claire will knock it out of the park. She is so talented. Lean the same. Yourself, Tilly de Hadler, all these people, they're so talented. But you can't ever be Claire, Talene, Tilly, Paul Scott.
No,
You can't
no,
be these people.
no.
But you're Joy
Yeah.
Clark.
No, that's true.
But you're
Yeah,
Joy
that's
Clark.
true.
And
You
if
have
you
to
go and
be,
look at my
yeah,
videos last year in Cape in Stellen, 2 years ago in Stellenbosch, I gushed all over your quilts. I was vomiting praise over every single one of them because your style is different, but you're still really
yeah,
good at it. And I think as quilters,
yeah, yeah,
I don't know whether it's quilters or people in general, we're never taught to believe what we have is good enough and what we are is good enough. Confidence of the case of, I'm not a great quilter. The fact I won third at Festival of Quilts, I had the right topic, right time. I'm the poster boy for how the hell did he get an award? And it's just, I relate so much to what you're saying that it's like, I can't believe that. It's imposter syndrome. How does that? I'm not a good enough quilter to
yeah,
be winning awards at the biggest quilt show in Europe. It's just not something
yeah,
a bingo card for 2023. But I think we need to just, and I think the hardest thing for somebody awarded master quilter, it's like when you see an actor win an Oscar, it's a case of, well, now they have to win another one, or now they have to win this. And I think as a master quilter, the pressure is immense. Look at Deerbolt.
yeah.
He
The
won
brother,
master quilter
yeah,
last time round. And
yeah,
now I said to Deerbolt the other day, I said, are you okay with what you're about to enter? And he's like, I'm terrified because the pressure is
yeah.
immense that you're a master
It
quilter.
is.
Now
It
you're
is. The thing is that you're actually even competing with yourself. You see, it's not really about competing with other quilters. It's about proving that you can do it again because you get this one lucky quilt winning this one lucky prize, and oh boy, can you get another one? Can you do it again? And there's a lot of excellent quilters out there. There's not one of them that isn't a worthy quilter. One of the first things I teach people in my classes is don't point out your mistakes, don't look at your mistakes, don't show people your mistakes. Sorry,
because they're
that
never
came
going
out
to
all
see
wrong.
them.
Exactly, because if you're riding past on a galloping horse, will you see that mistake? Yeah, so we need to try to trust what we do and we need to like what we do. And I do. I like my quilts. I do. I do know, I do know that they're not as good as everybody else's, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But my main thing is to try to be original. And that's sort of the hard part because in those categories as well, you have to do your own design. So that's sort of a biggie.
Mm. I think
Yeah.
too, it's what I find extraordinary is I know you don't see yourself as that talented in that way, but for me, that powerhouse of quilting ribbons on that window lives in a house in Umtantwini. You make your quilts every day, and it just the amount of talent that you have. I'm glad that people now will see some of the quilts because I think it's important every now and then to just reflect back on how, I always look at my first quilt and I do talks here in the UK I talk about the
Yeah.
100 quilts that have changed my life. And when you look at the first quilt that you make, mine is diabolical. My husband, bless his heart, he turned to me and he said, darling, should we get you some classes before you waste any more fabric? How does one
Oh,
respond to
shame.
that other than you will go and be buried in the garden in this quilt if you carry on like that?
Well, I will tell you that my first quilts that I ever entered into a show, and I entered three at one time. Well, I didn't know I knew about patchwork, I knew how to do it, and I thought it was great. I thought they were fantastic. And I mean, I didn't even know how to go around a corner on the binding. So what I did was I put a plate on each corner and I cut a curve so that the binding didn't have to have a corner, so it could just go around. But I
Oh my
didn't realize
goodness.
that to do that, I didn't know that to do that you should have cut the binding on the bias, but I had obviously cut it straight. So there were my quilts hanging with all cupped corners, going in at the bottom and the top, and I was terribly proud of them. Well, a lady in Port Elizabeth who is one of the top quilters there, Marilyn Pretorius, her name is, you might have heard of her. She came to me and she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "Are you Joy Clark?" I must mention now that that was I just arrived in PE. I'd only been there for a few weeks and there was the spring show. Anyway, she tapped me on my cold shoulder and she said, "Are you Joy Clark?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "You must come to me to learn how to do bindings. Your bindings are all wrong." And I thought, oh, well, she did me such a favor because it made me realize, oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, maybe they are wrong. Let me look at everybody else's. They've got these beautiful corners and mine are all doing that. And it made me realize, okay, I need to fix that. So the first thing I did after the show was go to someone to learn how to do bindings. And I mean, now I can do bindings.
But that's a
But
really important thing. Imagine that she had. I think it's a delicate balance, and as a person trying to give
yeah,
help and advice,
yes,
I have a long
yes.
arm
Well,
quilting
it,
business. I
yeah,
have a long arm quilting business, and I have this wonderful
yes,
customer. She brings her quilts in, and they're beautiful, but her middles are stunning. And this was then, not now. But what she did was when
yeah,
she put the borders on, she didn't measure the border piece, and she put the border piece on where the feed dogs are, and then she put it through the
okay.
sewing machine and then just hack off the end at the end. So what
It,
would happen
yeah,
is it was beautifully here, but then it rippled all the way down. So I had, if you actually pulled the border to the apart, it was about 3.5, 4 inches longer than where it was sewn on
yeah,
because of the way she was
yeah,
doing it. So I felt so bad because I'm like, I've got to talk to her because I can't, I've got to, but it really ate me because I'm like, you can't really criticize somebody's work. So I was, would you mind if I
yeah,
gave you some feedback? And she's like, absolutely. And I was so glad I did because every quilt she has brought in since is immaculate. It's exactly square and perfect.
yeah, yeah,
But you've got to
yeah.
be
I
open
get
to
that a
it.
lot.
You've got to be
Yeah,
open
yeah,
to it because
yeah.
there are a
You've
lot of
got to,
people who aren't.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You need to be teachable, and fortunately, I am. And if you come to me and you look at one of my quilts and say, "I hate that," I don't take offense because there's always that personal thing too. People they have the right to say if they don't like a quilt. So that doesn't bug me. I'm not touchy that way.
Your lesson, quite rightly, is you can't take offense to it because you don't love every quilt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm always open to opinion anyway. I like being given feedback. So I enjoy that. I also have a long arm quilting business, by the way.
You.
And I know what you mean. I get that too. And I also have that moment of thinking, how am I going to try and quilt this? And how will I fix it? Because you can't. I mean, it's going to have a wavy border. You can't not have it. You can't fix it. But I know what you mean. It's very hard to know, should I say something or should I just zip it? So yeah, I get that
My
too.
rule is if you brought me more than two quilts and the same problem's happening, I'm having a word.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think
yeah.
it's,
I
and the
had
great thing, I think it's how you do it. I think it's how you do it is important. You've
yes,
got to come with
yes,
kindness
yes,
because I don't want to
yes,
crush anybody's
exactly.
spirit. It's really,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she is an incredible piecer. She is absolutely phenomenal. She brought me a quilt
yeah.
yesterday, and what I love about new quilters bringing quilts into the long arm business is that you can see their experience and you can see how their journeys have improved. I just love being
Yeah,
part of that tiny journey of theirs.
it's fantastic. But I think the problem is why they do that thing with the border. It's because they go to a class, they learn how to make the quilt, but by the time they get to the border, they've been out of the class for months
Yeah,
because who finishes a quilt that quick? And
exactly.
so by the time they do the border, they're not quite sure. So they do it the way their grandmamas taught them how to sew. And it's not that they just don't realize the difference between how to add it correctly. So fortunately, people know that I'm a quilting teacher. So if they bring me a quilt that's got a border on that's incorrect, I always say to them, the next time you do a border on a quilt, let me know and I'll quickly show you exactly how to do it. So I do that. But yeah, it's not many of them that will come back, and
Yeah.
ask.
It's hard.
I'm
It's
still
really
going to get
hard.
there. Yeah.
I
I've
think
decided to, at our local guild, they'll let me do a talk one day and I'll do borders that day.
that's
So
a good
just to
idea.
to physically show an example of a quilt and have it, in stages. So that's what I'm going to do here. So that will be, at least 55 ladies that will realize the difference between just adding strips as to measuring your quilt and pre-cutting the borders. So you will
Mm.
get there.
I can't wait. I think 2 months last
Yeah,
week, I think I'm coming to talk to your guild, which I'm so...
it's 2 months. Yeah, 2 months.
And also
Yeah,
you get to go down to
time
the most
goes.
beautiful part of the world. I cannot wait to be down in your area again. I can't wait.
Oh, we are thrilled that you're coming. So it'll be
So
lovely.
excited.
So
Because I've
everyone
got a
is very
little
excited.
there's a little guest house that I used to stay in when I used to come down to Margate, and I love that place. And there was a lady who looked after us for meals and everything, Daisy, and she and I stay in touch
Yeah,
on WhatsApp. And we last time I was there was, gosh, about 10 years ago, and it was just I
yeah,
love that. I love going down there. It's a beautiful part of the world, and I'm hoping you're all
yeah.
recovering from
It
the
is.
recent
It's
floods and
lovely.
everything.
Yeah.
Is
Anyway,
everything
so
is everything recovering from the recent floods?
yes, I think so. I haven't actually been to that area much, but it's really only in Margate and Ramsgate where they had some serious damage. We were fortunate. We are, not so much difference here. We had the rain, but not the bad roads, and all the dramas that people had to put up with. So yeah, but they're very good in this part of the world. I find they tend to fix things that are broken quickly.
Good,
So we're
good,
lucky. Yeah, yeah,
brilliant. Is what's next for
yeah.
you on your quilting journey?
Oh, you know what? At the moment, I'm actually just trying to do my quilt entries for this festival of ours. So I've only just completed the one quilt and I've still got to do its binding, which I'm doing straight after this meeting of ours. And then the other entry that I've done, I have not begun yet. So I need to get cracking. I've got a month to go. So that's immediate next.
Is there anything I
Yes.
haven't asked you that you may want to mention?
No, no, I think we've covered about just about everything. Hey, I
And
think
some
so.
things we weren't
Yeah.
intending to.
Yes. I know you sent us a list of questions that we need to think about, but I didn't ever read the list. But I normally prefer to just wing it, so I find it's easier for me to just wing it when I talk.
Love it. That's
So,
how I do my
yeah,
whole quilting journey.
yeah.
Joy, it has been an absolute joy, and I cannot wait to see you in 2 months. Looking forward to a massive big hug and maybe a gin and tonic.
Yes, that'll be nice.
Can't wait. Thank
Okay,
you all
we'll
so
see
much for
you
joining
soon.
us for this installment of Voices in Cloth. We'll catch up with you again next time. Bye bye.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye, John. Hi, I'm Joy Clark, and I've made the little quilt called Positive Focus. The reason I've made this is just purely because that is the way I live. I have a positive focus on life. So I tend to look at the bright side of things. And for me, the little quilt was just all about doing my favorite technique, which is confetti quilting. I just love. I love to slice up my fabric into little shreds and then just create something new with it. So it was just a little fun piece. So I'm hoping that it brings some joy to somebody out there.